This conversation begins in the form of a question. Have you ever crossed the line? Have you ever crossed the line? Now, while you're taking some time pondering that thought, let me take you back to middle school. We've all been in middle school, and you know how it is in middle school. There's always two groups, if you will, and depends on which group you're in, but there's always two groups, and at the end of the school day, there's always a fight. Someone's always getting into it, and you've got one group pushing one kid, and you got another group pushing another kid, and they both, really, the children don't want to fight. I mean, come on, who really wants to fight? But you're being pushed by these two waves of individuals, and they come up with stuff like, sticks and stone may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. The little nursery rhymes, and you know that's a lie, because words have started wars. And so we know that's a lie. I mean, words have gotten people killed. So yeah, sticks and stone may break your bone, but words can hurt. I mean, let me say something bad about your mama. You want to knock my head off. I told you, words can hurt. And then they keep pushing these two children together, and then someone will come over and put like a leaf on their shoulder and on the other person's shoulder and say, if you knock that leaf off, boy, I'm going to knock your head off. Well, hold up. Nobody wants to knock it off. So they just keep on nudging them closer and closer together. And then someone comes over and they draw a line in the sand. And someone makes this statement, if you cross that line, oh, we're going to tussle. Oh, we're going to fight. But neither one of the children wants to cross the line, because really and truly, let's be for real. The children are really, this is who's going to be your politician and lawyer. They just want to talk a lot, but they don't want to fight. No, they don't want to fight. And that's where we are. We have people who will push us into a fight, who will push us across the line that we don't want to be pushed across. Be careful allowing others to push you across a line that you don't want to cross. You see, I asked you the question, have you ever crossed the line? Have you ever been pushed across the line? It may be a better way to ask this question as well. Have you allowed someone to push you across that line? Turn with me to the book of Obadiah. Yes, Obadiah chapter 1, verse 1 through 4. Now, I can sense you. I can't see you, but I can sense some of you are shaking your head. Donnie, hold up. Time out. There's no book in the Bible by the name of Obadiah. Well, hold up. Shake your head this way. Yes, there is. Yes, there is. Go with me to the Old Testament. And I'm not upset at you. I can understand, because Obadiah is the smallest book in the Old Testament. It's just one chapter. That's it. Just one chapter, but it's very powerful, very impactful. So stay with me. We're familiar with the prophets, like the prophet Daniel, the prophet Isaiah, the prophet Ezekiel, the prophet Jeremiah. We've heard so many stories about those prophets, but the minor prophets, like Obadiah, can get lost within the midst of all these other great stories, these great prophets. But God has something special for us. And Obadiah is sharing with us what God is unloading to him in a vision for the Edomites. The name of Obadiah means servant of God. So we have a prophet who has a name, and the name refers to him as servant of God. He's a prophet serving the Lord, and his name reflects what he's doing. Wow. Or are you serving in your name? Or do you just simply take it for granted? You see, someone named you, and I believe every name has a blessing attached to it. Your name is special. It might not be to you, but it's special to God. God knows your name. That makes it special, that God knows it. I pray that you're walking within the calling of your name. Now, that's a message for another day, but I just pray you are. In the book of Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 1 through 4, it reads like this: the vision of Obadiah. Thus saith the Lord concerning Edom. And we'll talk about Edom a little bit more. We have heard a rumor from the Lord, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. Verse 3. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, too big for your britches. Thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? Arrogant. Verse 4. Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord. They asked the question, who can bring us down? God says, I can. Stay with me. Have you ever crossed the line? Now, you're listening to me and you're saying, well, Donnie, where are we going with this? Just make sure you understand that this message is relatable to you and I, because it's telling the story of family dynamics, especially when it comes to grudges and grudges that's been held on for centuries, for decades. The Lord is sharing with us that Edom has decided to hold on to a grudge. So let me back up just a little bit for you. You remember the story of Jacob and Esau. Their parents, Isaac and Rebekah, can't have children. Rebekah's barren. And so Isaac goes and prays to the Lord on behalf of Rebekah. And the Lord answers his prayer, and Rebekah becomes pregnant. And she goes to the Lord because there's like a war going on inside of her womb. And so she inquires of the Lord, what's happening? And he tells her, inside of you, there are two nations, the Edomites and the Israelites. You have two nations inside of you. And he tells her, the elder, yes, will serve the younger. He's telling her that Esau will serve Jacob. And if you know anything about this story, when she gives birth, Esau comes out first. They pull Esau out, but Jacob is holding on to Esau, and that's where he gets his name from, the supplanter, because he said, no, you're not going to leave me in here. He supplants himself. He's trying to bring Esau back in so that he can be the firstborn. But no. God has a plan, and so Esau comes up first. Jacob was pulled on up with Esau. His name means supplanter, but it also means to seize. So as we get deep into the story, you realize that one day Esau is out working in the field, wherever he's doing, and he comes back in, and he is starving. And Jacob is he's a chef or something, because he has a stew on the stove. And Esau is so hungry, he basically tells him he'll sell him his birthrights if he just give him some of that stew. It didn't mean too much to him. To give it away that easy, it didn't mean too much to him. I mean, did he have to sign off on a piece of paper? Did he just get his birth certificate and give it to Jacob? I mean, how did he give up his birthright? That's another story for another day. But he gave him his birthright. Wow. How do you give up something that's so powerful? How do you give up your name, your birthright, for a bowl of stew? Now, I could understand if he had been fasting 40 days and 40 nights like Jesus Christ. And he came in and he was tempted, and he was so hungry, but he just had been in the field for one day. You're not tempted, you're spoiled, you're privileged, you're entitled. So he comes in and says, hey, take it, man, come on, give me some stew. That's what some of you are doing. You've taken your birthright, you've taken your name, and you basically tossed it to the side. I use a statement, so just brace yourself. Be careful of pissing on your father's legacy. Be careful. Be very careful. Because the legacy he has is the legacy that God gave to him. Don't throw it away. Don't give it away. Now, if someone takes it, that's a different story. But Esau gives it up. See, God knows what he's dealing with. That's why he told Rebekah, the elder shall serve the younger. We find out later that Rebekah, she's a supplanter too. She's a deceiver. She deceives her husband, Isaac. She dresses up Jacob in this wool-like clothing on his arm, because Esau is a hairy young rascal. And so he comes in, she brings him in, and he sits down before Isaac. And Isaac is getting ready to bless his sons. And so he thinks he's blessing Esau, the elder son, because let's be for real, Isaac was fond of Esau because Esau was like him, out in the field working. And Jacob was more like Rebekah. He's more of an administrator. He understands how to cook and runs the house and runs the business. But so Isaac had a heart for Esau. And he wanted to give Esau a blessing. And so Rebekah deceived him. But Jacob's in on it. So he's a supplanter again of his father's blessing. You see, once it starts, it don't stop. We know the rest of the story. Esau comes in and he realizes he's been duped again, that he no longer has not only his birthright, but he doesn't have the blessing from his father. And so he is upset. He makes it very clear he's going to kill Jacob. And so Jacob runs away to his uncle Laban's house, and he stays away for 20 long years. And one day he's coming back, and Esau hears about it, and Esau runs out to meet him. And so Jacob thinks he's about to die. But Esau, the Bible tells us, he embraces him. He hugs his neck. He's forgiven him. He's called a truce. Wow. Isn't that something? Distance, time heals all wounds. And so these two brothers have a truce, and they moved on. They made up and they moved on. But watch this. This is where the story changes. This is where the story gets a little bit challenging. As we just read out of the book of Obadiah, the Lord is telling Obadiah to go tell the Edomites. Now, you don't know this, but when the children of God were enslaved for 430 plus years, that's Israel. The Edomites, that's Esau's descendants. They're not enslaved, they're in the wilderness. And so here Israel is, Jacob, Israel is enslaved. Moses comes, Moses leads them out of slavery. He leads them over the Red Sea, and now they are in the wilderness. And they're passing through the land, and they meet their relatives. Watch this, their first cousin, the Edomites, Esau's descendants. So you've got the Israelites coming through the wilderness, headed toward the promised land, and the Edomites are in the wilderness. But the Edomites have always been vindictive. Yeah, if you read the story, if you read the book of Numbers and Chronicles, you'll see that the Edomites were fighting against King Solomon. They were fighting against King Jehoshaphat. So they had some evilness in them. They rebelled against King Joram. So they weren't for Israel. No, they weren't. Now, you would think they would be because there was a truce made between their fathers and fathers before them, Esau and Jacob. But keep in mind, Esau and Jacob are long gone. They've been dead for centuries, for over 4 or 5 centuries. But this grudge is still going on through the descendants. They picked it back up. Be careful bringing grudges against family members. Be very careful, because sometimes it can be very, very nasty. And sometimes it can be a cursing upon your life. And so as the Israelites are passing through the wilderness, and they need to get through the Edomites' land, because the Edomites are living up in the clefts. They have the high ground, so they have the advantage. If you know anything about war, you want to be on the high ground, because you're able to see your enemies coming. You're able to defeat them, or you're able to escape at worst. So Israel comes through, and they're looking to move through the land. And guess what? The Edomites tell them, no, you can't pass through here. It's like, hold up, cuz. I mean, first cousin, what you mean we can't move through here? It's like, no, you can't move through here. They are still bitter. They are still grudging. You have family members just like this, who you're still grudging, you're still holding a grudge against, you're still fighting against over something that happened 20 or 30 years ago. It happened to your mama them. You weren't even involved. Happened to your daddy them. You weren't even involved, but you're carrying that grudge. And you don't even know what it's really about, but you're holding on to it. You're holding on to your father's demons. You got to be kidding me. I don't think so. But that's what the Edomites are doing. That's what some of you are doing right now. Now, let me back up just a little bit. Esau, some of you are like, why did the Lord allow Esau, who's the eldest, become the servant of his younger brother? Why did he allow Esau to sell his birthrights and to be betrayed, to be deceived out of his blessing? Let me tell you something about God. God knows what's best. I don't try to get in God's business. I don't think you should either. I don't think you should cross that line. God knows what he knows because he knows. He knows that Esau can't carry the Israelites, but he knows that Jacob can. Now, you ask me, how do I know? Well, hold up. Let me back up. Some of you are dealing with family members right now, and you know that your family knows who are the Esau's in the family. But your mother, your father will give Esau the business, the family business, knowing that he's going to run it into the ground. But they'll give it to him because they're going off of emotion that, well, he needs it. He doesn't have anything. And you guys already have families and you guys are settled. And well, hold up. He's 47 years old. He should have something too. But we wind up giving business and we wind up giving houses and cars and land to that individual who's an Esau in the family, knowing he's going to run it into the ground. You see, God's not like you. God could see what Esau is going to do. Not so much Esau himself, but what his descendants are going to do. They are going to be against Israel. God could see it coming. He knows all. See, you don't know that. But you do know about your brothers and sisters who you shouldn't be giving things to, putting them in charge of stuff, but you still do it because you're so emotional behind it. That's not God. God's not emotional. God will make the right decision every time. Stop making a bad decision based on emotions. Giving some knucklehead something that they shouldn't have, that they can't maintain. But you're giving it to them because you think it's helping them. No, you're enabling them to do worse. That's what you're doing. Here we have Israel coming through the wilderness. And they need safe passage through because they've been fighting all these other armies, if you will. And so they need safe passage through the Edomites' land, through Edom. And the Edomites say, no. Do you remember in the Word of God where it's in the book of Genesis where God says to Abraham, leave thy country, leave thy father's house, leave our kin folks. He says, I need you to travel. I got a land for you. I've got a name I want to put on you to make you great and to make your seed great. He said, I got something special for you. And he says, on this journey though, those who bless you, this is in Genesis 12:3, those who bless you, I will bless. But those who curse you, I will curse. There's nothing like a fight between family members because there's always jealousy. And so some of that stuff is expected. But when you go and bring someone from the outside, then you've messed up. Oh yeah, you've messed up. Edom went and got other forces from the outside. They messed up. You see, that's crossing the line. It's okay to fight between family members, but when you go outside and you bring someone in, oh, there's a price to pay. And so God makes it clear, bless them that bless you, and I will curse them that curse you. God cursed the Edomites because they refused to let Israel through. They're first cousins. But then he also went and teamed up with other armies in the wilderness, trying to bring down Israel. This 5 century grudge, watch this, God wiped them completely off of the face of the earth. Do you hear me? God destroyed them. He made them disappear out of the books of history. Yes, the Edomites. Esau's group, the brother who you gave the house to, the brother who you gave the car to, the brother who you gave the business to, that brother, him and all of his descendants were wiped off the face of the earth because they were going up against Israel. Who are you going up against in your family? Your mother, your father? I mean, who are you crossing the line in your family with? Is it your uncle? Is it your aunts? I mean, who is it? I mean, what have you crossed the line and done that has God upset with you? You don't want to cross the line with God. You don't want to be cursed by God. No, you don't. Remember the story about Cain and Abel? And all Cain had to do was go and bring a better offering. But he decided that he would just simply get rid of the competition. That's what you're doing. You're at work. You're plotting against your boss. You're crossing a line that you shouldn't be crossing. You're putting out rumors on somebody at your job, trying to stop your promotion. That's evil. You're crossing a line. Stop crossing that line. No. Stay on your side of the line. Let things happen the way they should happen naturally. Stop getting involved. Stop putting your hands on stuff you shouldn't put your hands on. Stop putting your mouth on stuff you shouldn't put your mouth on. All Cain had to do was bring a better offering. He didn't have to kill his brother, but he did. He crossed the line. He said, I'm just going to go take him out. I'm going to take out my competition. Wow. Eve, all Eve had to do was stay in her place. But she didn't. She crossed the line. She wanted to be as God. She crossed the line. She listened to the voice of someone else, and she crossed the line, and she took from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. She crossed the line. Adam crossed with her. They crossed the line. Are you crossing the line this morning? What are you crossing the line doing? What have you got yourself into? I'm asking you a question. What have you crossed over into? You see, there's a darkness you can cross into. We have a tendency, if we're not careful, of crossing the line. Crossing the line. And there's a line that none of us really ever wants to cross. Jesus is having a conversation with his disciples, and he's telling them that he's about to go to his Father's house, which has many mansions. And where he goes, he's going to prepare a place for them as well. Thomas, the disciple Thomas, makes a statement, we don't know where you're going, neither do we know the way. And Jesus answered them in John 14:6. He says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Now, what he says next is so important for you and I. Because we've been trying to get around Jesus for a long time. That's just the nature of humans. We're always trying to get to the next person in line, to the CEO, to the president of the company. But Jesus makes this statement, no man cometh unto the Father but by me. Jesus is telling us, don't cross that line. If you're going to pray, if you're going to try to speak to God, you need to come to me first. You see, we've been crossing that line for a long time. You realize that none of the establishment could care less about you saying God is this and God is that, because everyone has a God, if you will. But when you say the name of Jesus, everyone has a problem. You know why? Because you're crossing a line. See, Jesus crosses the line. When you bring up his name, the line starts getting erased because Jesus is the line. But we have a tendency of trying to go to God. We're trying to usurp, if you will. We're trying to circumvent the process, and we're trying to go around Jesus to get to God. Jesus said, whoa, hold up. No man cometh to the Father but by me. Stop trying to go around Jesus. Stop trying to cross the line and get to the Father without going through the Son. Don't put yourself in a cursed situation. Jesus makes it clear. Come to me. Yes. Come to me, and I will take your petition. I will take your issue to the Father. But you can't come around me. Don't even try. Don't try to cross this line like Moses and Aaron did. Moses and Aaron crossed the line when they listened to the voice of the children of Israel in the wilderness. When they told them, if you try to go into the land, Moses, we're going to find new leadership. Moses should have told them, go ahead and find some new leadership. But Moses was so attached to being the CEO, and Aaron, his brother, was so attached to being the COO. They didn't want to give it up. So they bowed before them. They crossed the line that day. They looked towards them versus looking toward God who gave them. Are you crossing the line looking at something you shouldn't be looking at? What are you tiptoeing in? What are you tiptoeing through? Are you like the Edomites? Are you puffing yourself up to be big and bold and bad, and you're asking the question, nobody can bring me down? Well, somebody can. We have to be careful. Men, we have to be very careful. And the places we put our wives in, the positions we put our wives in. Lot is a great example for all of us of crossing the line. Lot went into Sodom and Gomorrah. He was living there with his family. That's crossing the line. Who would put their family in a place like that? But someone who's doing some evil stuff themselves. So when we look at Lot's wife, when she looks back and she turns to a pillar of salt, I blame Lot. Because he put in that city, and guess what? That city got inside of her. Because Lot crossed the line that you should never cross. You should never put your wife into a setting where there's pornography. No. You think it's cool and it's going to make her, rouse up for you. No. That's the wrong thing to do. Stop looking at stuff that you don't know what might turn your wife on, what spirit might get inside of her. Some things you just can't allow yourself to do. Lot did it. I pray that you don't have a Lot spirit. Dishonoring your father and mother, that's crossing the line. Disobeying the commandments, that's crossing the line. Yes, Judas betrayed Jesus. That was crossing the line. Having sex before marriage, I don't want to hear this, but that's crossing the line. Committing adultery, that's crossing the line. How many lines have you crossed today? Disturbing your parents' rest, that's crossing the line. They're retired, and here you are getting arrested and calling them to get you out of jail weekend after weekend. What are you doing? They've lived their life with you. They've raised you. Get out the way. Your girlfriend coming over every weekend, and every time she comes over, she's flirting with your husband, and you think it's cute. No, it's not cute. No, she's got a plan. She's crossing the line of your marriage vows. You better check her before she check you. She's crossing the line. Get her told. Get her, put her in her place. That's what you should be doing. Do you understand where I'm coming from? Let me tell you, it's going to take a lot of discipline to stay on your side of the line. At the end of my junior year in high school, I took a vow. I took a plea to myself. I wasn't a born again believer. I didn't even go to church. But I knew I wanted more. And I knew it would take some discipline. But I knew it would take a commitment as well. And so I watched all of my friends around me getting girls pregnant and doing drugs and alcohol and going down the wrong way, being locked up in jail. And I just didn't want that. I wanted something better. And so I drew a line, if you will. And I made a decision that I wouldn't do any drugs my senior year, that I wouldn't do any alcohol my senior year, that I wouldn't have any sex my senior year. And all of my friends would come around me and they would always offer me drinks and drugs and even have young ladies out in my front yard in a van wanting me to come outside and have sex with them. And I refused to do it. And they thought I was crazy. But I wasn't crazy. I had a plan. I had a goal I wanted to achieve. You see, everyone around you will try to pull you across the line. Do you have the discipline to stay on your side of the line? I had the discipline. My entire senior year, I refused to cross the line. Now, I wound up getting scholarships and offers from all over the country because I stayed on my side of the line, because I disciplined myself. When was the last time you really disciplined yourself? When was the last time you achieved something that you set out to achieve? A diet maybe that you were trying to accomplish. Did you finish it? Did you discipline yourself to stay on your side of the line? A job opportunity. Did you stay on your side of the line? A school opportunity. Did you stay on your side of the line? You see, it's all up to you of what you do once you put something in place to stay on your side of the line. I decided to fight for what I believed in, and I believed in achieving my goals. And so therefore, I disciplined myself to not look back, to not listen to my friends, but to listen to the voice inside of me that said, in order to achieve this, you've got to stay on your side of the line. Have you ever crossed the line? No. That year, I didn't. Now, I've crossed the line before. I'm human. But for those goals I set for myself, no. I didn't. I refused to. And I went to college, got a degree, and I moved on with my life because I refused to cross that line. I pray that you refuse to cross that line. I pray that you do. I pray that you don't fall short of your goals. I pray that you stay committed and you stay in this fight because it is a fight and you have to be strong. But you have to realize if you stay on the side of the line that you're supposed to stay on, God is on your side. There's a blessing staying on the side of the line you should stay on. There's a curse going across that line, you see. I refuse that the curse be placed on my life. I wanted to honor my Father's name. So I stayed on my side of the line. As believers, we cross the line almost every single day because we're trying our best to make everyone around us feel good. But truth be told, it's not your job to make everyone around you feel good. It's your job to tell the truth. And whatever the truth make them feel, that's up between them and that truth. See, that's what we should be doing. But we cross the line when we don't tell the truth. We feel telling the truth, watch this, will hurt them. It's going to hurt them. And we don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. That's where we are as a country. We're so emotional. But let me tell you what you're doing. You're hindering them by not telling them the truth. That's what you're doing. Yeah, you're hindering them. You're hindering their walk with Jesus Christ. And therefore, guess what? You've crossed the line again. Because you've decided that their feelings are more important than their salvation. You've decided to take on the role as a savior. That's not your job. God has that job, and he does a very good job with it. You see, you're crossing the line by trying to play God. You know, when you think about it, crossing the line is like putting your hand on a hot stove. You're going to get it off real quick. Back across that line, right? That's what crossing the line can be for some of us. That's what it was for the Edomites when they crossed the line against the Israelites. So be careful putting your hands on things you shouldn't put your hands on. Jesus crossed the line all the way from divinity to humanity, all the way to the cross as he allowed himself to be nailed upon the cross in the form of two lines, one horizontal and one vertical, one pointing to the kingdom as an entrance for you and I, and the other one pointing to hell as an exit for those who don't desire to be with Jesus and his Father in the kingdom. We're told that pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. That's in Proverbs chapter 16, verse 18. Some of you this day will cross the line, and you will give up your drug addiction. Some of you will. I truly believe it. Some of you will let go of your grudges against family members that you've been having for a lifetime. Some of you will. And you will cross the line, and you will give your life to Jesus Christ. Let me plead with you. Please, don't wait until you cross the line of death and be on the wrong side of the line on your day of judgment. Please don't wait till then. You will not favor well. And don't forget Romans 10:9. We all have an opportunity to cross the line by confessing with your mouth and believe in your heart that Jesus is Lord and that God has raised him from the dead. Now, that's a line we all should cross into eternity with our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. You be blessed and stay on the right side of the line.